leaving your daily quiet time. You can say something like this, because this kind of works for me. Okay, God, from this time forward, I'm going to be on the run, and my job is to minister and to serve and to represent you. So I'm going to have an ear tuned into you the best I can, but I'm also going to be dealing with people. So if you're needing to talk to me, I'll do the best I can to hear from you, but would you just do me a favor? Speak loud. So during the course of the day, you might have to ask God to speak loud, but during the quiet time, it's where we hear the whisper. And I want you guys to notice this. The word ministered. The word ministered, it means to serve. Samuel ministered before the Lord on a daily basis. He served the Lord on a daily basis. And we have a lot of people here in our church that do that serve before the Lord on a daily basis. And one of them is Phil Green. And I always wanted to sit down with Phil and just say, let's do an interview with a worshiper. Let's do an interview on your service, Phil, and let's just see your perspective on what you do here. So Phil and I are going to do that. Come on up, Phil. Yes, we're gonna do Larry King interview here. I need a table.
You said you want to sit down.
Yes, sir. I need to get a mic for Phil. Now, I kind of sent him these questions beforehand, so hopefully he'll remember them and went through them, and we'll get this right. 3-question interview. So the first question is this. Phil, Samuel ministered to the Lord, and I was thinking he did things around the temple on a daily basis. In those days, amongst a few of the things they did was they prayed prayers and they sang songs. And it's something we do here on a regular basis at Frontline. Can you tell me what your thought or your prayer process is as you put together your ministry here every Sunday, for the most part, for the last 6 years? What is your thought process as you set this up for us?
My thought process is actually pretty eclectic. I would love to say that I spend hours in prayer every day, but I'm just another guy with a job like all you guys, and I've got a lot of the pop culture that we grew up in my head, and I got a lot of songs bouncing around in there, and I've been given a fantastically talented group of musicians and singers with which to work, all of which do it on such a volunteer basis, but with schedules and with illnesses and with all the things that go on every week. Sometimes I don't know who I'll have from week to week. So the things that I do are very task-based. I'm a bit of a planner. I usually carry a couple of things around in my pocket that I can constantly write down electronically, and I write down my ideas all the time. And ideas pop into my head, I'll write them down. But I'll usually speak with Steve about what the message of the week is going to be and try to tailor what we do to the message and put together a group of songs, and then I'm pretty well limited by the people and the musicians that I actually have that week.
You did that this morning, though, with the Be Still and Know That I Am God.
We did. We knew that. We knew we were going to be talking about Samuel, and there were some key things that we were able to pull in. So
let me give you the second question. I think you have one of the toughest jobs here, because if you guys ever look at a radio station, I talked a little bit about this last week, there are a lot of stations on the radio. And what that means is there is a wide variety of musical tastes. There's just a ton. So it's really hard to please everybody when it comes to putting music together. Tell me how you try to keep variety in your music. What's your approach to doing that? What are you thinking through in that particular perspective?
Eclectic variety is pretty much, I think, my style. I've got, when I say I have a lot of songs bouncing around in my head, I've got old gospel hymns, I've got old gospel choruses, I've got a lot of rock influences, and the combination of what we do is pretty much a mixture of a lot of these things, and I try to keep enough of the really good older stuff in that I think a lot of churches have let go, but I also appreciate and love to take liberty with some of the style, because once again, I have musicians that are of a certain style and ability, and I really like to play to their strengths, and so.
Good. And I think, I know your heart is that we engage people in worship, that we bring people together to worship God. I mean, that's our goal. And 2 weeks ago, I walked in and you were up here with the guitar right in the middle. And I know you don't like to necessarily be the center guy. But I just watched and I was amazed at your talent. How on God's green earth, Phil, can you play so many instruments? That's what I want to know. Or if I want to rephrase that, what in the midst of all these sounds is Phil Green hearing? And what's going on in that whole thing? Because for me, I don't hear a whole lot of that stuff. So.
Well, to answer your first question, it's actually very easy, and most of the guys in the band know this, is I can play a whole lot of things, but I can't play anything very good, okay? And
well, you got me fooled, bro.
Yeah, and that's why I really rely upon the technicians that I have. I mean, they really make the magic solid underneath the worship, and I really like to work with the band and as I said, work to their strengths. I rely upon them. What I hear the whole thing. For some reason, it's like, some people, Dave Hopkins can pick out guitar parts out of a song like there's no tomorrow. John this morning pulled some fantastic stuff out that I hadn't heard before, and I just had to applaud him because he put some new stuff into one of our songs, and it really makes me smile. Dan Myers, it's like doggone, it's like the guy can come in every Sunday morning and he can play, and he's solid, and then all of a sudden he'll throw a little drum lick in that just once again makes me smile. Harry, he's absolutely solid behind me. He sounds just like me. Ryan and John both. It's like I got bass players. Tommy, it's like they all hear their parts. And what I hear is I hear the whole thing, and sometimes I can communicate to them if I'm looking for something out of their part, and they can understand my rude translation of what I'm asking for and give it to me, which allows me to work with the vocals. And the vocals are really, I think, where when you have solid music underneath, the vocals are really where the message is carried. And once again, I've got awesome vocalists, and I love working with all of them.
Well, I'll tell you what, we appreciate you here, and I know that you put together something from the Elton John collection for us this morning, and I'm going to let you go ahead and run with that, okay? We talked about this, and so Phil's going to play us a song here.
Just to let you guys know a little bit how I work and how weird this all comes together, okay? I'm sitting in the back there last week, someplace in the back row there, and Steve said he was going to be talking about Samuel. And, of course, what pops into my head immediately is Samuel. It rhymes with Daniel. And then all of a sudden, I've got a song in my head, okay? And while we have a massive amount of original music happening in the band up here, we just don't seem to have the time, being all part-time as we are, to actually sit down and write our own music, which we will do someday. But it's really easy to actually borrow somebody else's music and put some scripture to it. So when Pastor Steve said we were going to do Samuel, I went and I looked up the book of Samuel, and I'm like, holy cow, there's 2 whole books with all these verses about the whole guy's life. And so I said, well, what were the key things? Well, he was a judge and a prophet, and that was his occupation. I'm like, where can I apply for that job and get money? I'd love to do that, okay? And then so I had to call Pastor Steve and say, which verses are you going to use? And he told me, and I kind of read it, and I'm like, there's really not a whole lot there. It's like he was sleeping, and the Lord called him, and he said yes. And that's a pretty doggone simple message. But out of that, we've put together a little bit of a song here, and Dave, I'm going to need a whole lot more piano than that. Okay, you guys ready?